Hi, this is Maura from Get Kids to Behave, and this video is for parents who are at the edge of their level of frustration and they feel like they're going crazy and they can't do this anymore and they just really need some fast relief. So this lesson is what to do when you just are almost at that point where you are raising up your white flag in surrender, just looking at all of the chaos and misbehavior and feeling so overwhelmed that you don't even know where to start. So the first thing is you want to create a rule and a consequence. Now you're probably thinking, oh, I've tried that before, it doesn't work. Well, I'm here to tell you that when done properly, it absolutely works. And so the first step is to realize the pitfalls that parents have that make this not work. So the first mistake that parents usually make is being passive aggressive. So this is usually when a parent is really permissive and easygoing, lets things slide, but simultaneously their frustration levels are gradually rising. And then when they get to the point where they're so frustrated, then they lash out with a warning, a threat of a consequence that is way too big. It's fear-based, and 90% of the time the parent has no intention of actually following through with this big consequence. And if they did follow through with the big consequence, it's no one wins, because the parent won't feel peace about it because it's too big of a consequence and it's done without any warning, and the kid won't feel good about it because the kid will be confused and scared. The next mistake that parents make is they don't follow through 100% of the time. I mean, you don't have to be perfect and do it 100% of the time, but pretty close in order for kids to change their behavior around because of a consequence you set up. And it has to be an arrangement that you've already discussed beforehand with your kid so that it doesn't blindside them out of the blue in the moment, because kids need to understand and to be forewarned. The next mistake that parents typically make is they have a high emotional charge when they're giving the consequence. They're upset, or just like they show their high emotional charge, where it's like they're probably like, oh, you keep doing this again, how many times do I have to tell you? It drives me crazy when you do that. That's a mistake, because it's not needed. If the consequence is set up properly, the consequence in its nature will help to change your kid's behavior. There's no need for you to show that you're suffering. Think about if, as an adult, gets pulled over by a police officer, the police officer is just like, all right, this is the violation, here's your ticket, have a nice day. Because there's no need for the officer to have a high emotional charge and distress to get us to change. The consequences is good enough to motivate us to change. Now, of course, that's an adult scenario, and let's bring it back to kids. The next mistake that parents make is when they approach this whole thing with a punitive tone. So what goes along with a punitive tone is indirectly letting your kid know that you're disappointed in them, that you're mad at them, that they're being bad. And from a kid's point of view, of course they're going to resist this consequence if what's also coming toward them is this whole energy that they're bad and that you're so frustrated with them. So that doesn't work either. Okay, let's think of a place to start. So you're looking around, there's chaos all around. Maybe you have a few kids, maybe you have just one, and all you know is you're very irritated and distressed and you want to say things like, knock it off, you guys act right, like, what are other expressions? Like, you guys be good, act right. But as you can see, expressions like that are very vague. And from a kid's point of view, what does that even really mean? So for their sake and yours, what you need to do is identify a top explicit behavior that you want to create a rule around. So if you look and you try to hone in your focus to see what kind of rule could I create that would really help everything be more calm. So it might be don't push your sister, or siblings, you're not allowed to push each other or hit each other. It could be that could be a rule. So the rule is no hitting or pushing. Or it could be they're throwing toys and I have a bunch of breakable objects in this room. So the rule could be no throwing toys. It could be when I ask you to wash your hands after dinner, you wash them without delay or without complaining. That could be the rule. Whatever is the top thing that gets under your skin, that should be where we start. I would warn against not choosing a consequence that is really, really serious. For example, if your kid has a tendency to run away out in public, or if your kid has a tendency to like climb on the kitchen counter when you're cooking on the stove, I would say not to pick those, because you're going to see that once you set up this structure, your kid is going to test the limits. So we don't want to put ideas in their head and that be in their minds something that they want to push the limit with, because those things are too dangerous and too severe. So maybe pick the most severe thing in the lower category of more average, medium type things. Or, and you know your child best, you could choose something that's a behavior that's more trivial, like I need you to take off your shoes before you enter the house, or before you enter the living room, or feet off of the coffee table or something like that. Or brush your teeth without me having to tell you, or something like that. So, all right. So it's up to you. It's your discretion on what you want to start with. You want to choose something that you know your kid can handle following this rule. Like they're ready, that it's within their capability to handle following this rule, and it's something that you can handle. And what we're going to do next is set up a consequence. Now, I think that the deciding on the rule, 1 or 2 or 3, all depends on what you think you guys can handle. But the next step is to create a consequence. Now, at this point, I really recommend going about it with the inclusion of your kids. So what I would recommend is if you, I love this approach. I think it works really, really well. So you say, hey, let's talk. I want to talk. Can we talk? And then, they have to stop their video game or stop what they're doing. No toy, don't play at the same time. Let's just look eye to eye. Let's look at each other. Maybe you can choose a humbling position by sitting cross-legged on the floor with them across from you. If you have multiple kids, you could do this all at the same time, and then if needed, you can branch out and continue the conversation one by one. But I love this approach where you start off humbly admitting a fault of your own, so that the whole conversation is not centered around how your kid needs to get better, because that's a very frustrating conversation to have for a kid. And so you would say something like, hey, I just wanted to have a talk with you because I was just thinking about how things have been going in the house, and I realized that I haven't been doing the best job in parenting, because I've been letting you guys act this way. And honestly, I didn't really know how to handle it. I thought maybe it would go away, and then as you've seen, sometimes I lose my cool and I yell, and I'm not proud of that either. And so I've just been really thinking, my new goal is to make sure that I prepare you for the real world. And in the real world, there are rules that you have to follow, and if you don't follow them, there's a consequence. And if you get a consequence, like, the goal is to just like powerfully deal with it without feeling bad about yourself, and to try to correct your behavior for next time so you don't get a consequence the next time. So I'd love to just start like playing this new game of rules and consequences with you. And I already decided which rule I want to start with. I think that I want to start with, for you two, no hitting. So, hey, I know you're not gonna be perfect, right? No one's perfect, but from now on, there's the rule, no hitting, and you could make it official by writing it on a card and taping it to the wall. No hitting or pushing. Now, not if, because they're gonna do it. So when you do hit or push your sister or your brother, what's gonna happen is you'll be getting a consequence. And then if they're, it depends on the age, they may need to be taught what that word means. And so here's the part where you could say something like, now I want it to be the smallest consequence, because I don't want this to be like scary or anything. Remember, the goal is for you to take a consequence for your actions, because I think that that's going to really help you in life. And then you could always say, not just in life, like not in the real world, or not when you become an adult, because for a kid that's so far away. So you could say, next year in school, or when you join baseball, or when you start going to your friends' birthday parties, there's probably going to be rules. And what if someone gives you a consequence? I want to really teach you how to handle that without feeling bad. So let's practice. Okay, so I was thinking, when you hit or push your sister, the consequence could be, how about if, well, I could set a timer for 5 minutes, and you both have to sit there and not talk, but what else could we do? How about, you could give me your phones for 15 minutes, or it could be go to sleep 15 minutes early, or 15 minutes less of video games. What do you guys think would work? Or what do you think is a good idea? And then you actually get their feedback. Now, it's really respectful to get their feedback, and it's really great it's a great way to get them on board with this. It's a great way to get their buy-in into this. So it's not something that's forced upon them. But be careful to not let them be the ones in charge of this. Remember, you're the parent. So when they offer something like, how about if we hit or push each other, we just have to sit in this chair for 1 second. And you could say, I think I like where you're going with this, because we want to make it simple, but I think we need to make it a little longer, just so that it'll actually work, so that you won't want to break the rule. So you have to kind of, model your thinking, with the point being that you're the one that's ultimately making this decision, but you will respect their feedback and take that into consideration. And it's a great idea to get their ideas, because it helps you brainstorm. So then you can say, all right, so let's try it out. We'll see how it goes. And then you can remind them of the rule, or the goal, which is, it's healthy in life to see how our consequences have actions. And when you break a rule, there's a consequence, and you accept it, but it doesn't mean that you're bad. Like, of course you're not bad. You're awesome. I love you so much. And that's another thing that's very important in all this that I'll discuss in another video. But you want that to be the lighthearted vibe of this whole thing, kind of like a game. Like when you're playing Monopoly and you land on jail, you skip a turn. It's just like, okay, yeah, you skip a turn. All right, hey, can you pass me the popcorn or whatever? Like, there's no emotional charge. There's no like, how could you land on jail? Or now you have to skip a turn. How many times have you done this? All of that is not necessary. So we want to create this like a lighthearted game. Going back to that example of a police officer pulling you over for speeding and giving you a ticket, think about it like this. The goal is for even adults in our emotional health to get a ticket and to have the consequence help our behavior improve. So the consequence of having to pay for a speeding ticket, is I will improve my driving to be more careful of the speeding limit. But are you going to let that incident ruin your whole night? Are you going to be crabby the whole night, disempowered, feeling bad about yourself, beating yourself up? No. So that's why I really believe that by teaching kids how to navigate consequences for their actions, it's such a rich learning experience in so many ways that I can get into at another time. This video is just to give you an immediate game plan for some relief. Now, you have to be prepared for incremental additions of consequences if the kid is not accepting their consequence. So you want to show them that the consequence has to be accepted like easily with a good attitude as much as possible. They don't have to be cheerful while taking the consequence, but they have to do it like the goal is to do it just accepting it and not, whining, fighting, arguing, and making things even worse. So the way to teach them that is to show them that the consequence gets bigger the more you act up instead of just accepting the consequence. And so the way to do that is to develop within whatever structure you made up. And I can support you with that if you want to leave a comment or message me about your specific situation. But you want to set up an incremental system where it's like, all right, give me your phone. So remember we agreed that if you push your sister, I get your phone for 15 minutes. And they're like, no. And you're like, all right, look, the agreement was to give it to me for 15 minutes. If you don't give it to me, then it'll be 20 minutes. No. Okay, 25 minutes. No. If you follow through 100% and show them that you're not responding with a strong emotional charge going from 0 to 100, but you're just very rationally building up the increments to show them like you can't get out of this by resisting the consequence, because that is a true thing in life too. If you resist your consequence, things do get worse in life. And so on a microscopic scale, we want to teach kids this in a very harmless, lighthearted way, and when I say follow through 100%, you don't have to do that at the expense of, your kid's spirit, like, of course not. There are times when you can give your kids a break, but make sure you don't do that because of their whining and resisting. Like, let's say they won't give you the phone, so it got up to 30 minutes. And then you can't just do that forever. Like, now it's 35 minutes, now it's 40 minutes. Like, at some point you have to raise the stakes if they're still not accepting the consequence. Like, look, it was only going to be 15 minutes. Looks like it looks like you're in a bad mood. How about this? How about I let you calm down, and then I'm gonna go wash the dishes, and when I come back, let's just try this whole thing again. And you can kind of reenact it like a role play, because remember, the goal is for them to get good at this. So hey, you're new at this. This is a new thing. Let's just try again. Okay, let's pretend you just pushed your sister. And remember, the rule is you may not push your sister. No pushing or hitting. Remember to repeat the rule. That's very important, to repeat the explicit behavior that is against the rule because of that thing that you posted on the wall. And so, yeah, you can start over and be like, let's just try again. Let's role play. And you know what? And then give them another chance to do it, starting with 15 minutes. Because they're new at this, and they have to learn that they have to focus on the goals of accepting a consequence for our actions without, in the easiest way possible, without getting upset or disempowered or feeling bad about themselves or thinking that you think they're bad. And if the kid is having a really strong emotional response to the consequence, most likely that's a clue that the consequence is way too big. So remember, when you're choosing the consequence, it has to be small, almost like it does put some pressure on them, a little weight on their shoulder, but not big enough where they're going to have a nervous breakdown to do it. You know, we don't want to traumatize kids. We just want to guide them through being able to deal with the consequence for their actions, because that's very powerful. It trains them that when I do something, there's an effect, and having a cause and effect view on their behavior is not only useful in the negative way of breaking rules and seeing that it hurts them. I mean, that's a good thing to learn. Like, when I do the wrong thing, it hurts me. But on the positive side, there are also rich implications. For example, if I do the right thing, great things will happen. Like, wow, I'm really seeing that my actions have effects. So if I practice my dribbling the basketball every day after school, I could probably make the basketball team. Or if I pay attention in my class, I can get straight A's. Maybe I could have my dream job when I grow up. So it's really powerful. It's not that we want kids to go through a hard time. We don't want to it's not that we're trying to make their life miserable by being like, you broke this rule, here's your consequence. It's actually good for them to have you set up a structure so that they can see that their behaviors have consequences. And the best thing to do is to get it. Like, yeah, I did push my sister, and yeah, I remember the deal was to give you my phone for 15 minutes. I remember that. I helped create that goal. So yeah, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. No big deal. You know, the parent isn't yelling at them. There's no negative thing. The parent could actually build the kid up while he's taking a consequence. Like, for example, let's say your daughter has her phone taken away for 15 minutes. You could say like, wow, I am so impressed that you had such a great attitude accepting your consequence. Great job. Hey, what do you want for dessert? Or, you know, what do you want to watch on TV later? You know, so you're driving home this point, but at the same time, you're making sure to uplift them that they're still great, you still believe in them, and all is well. So you really want to focus on the whole purpose behind this, because if they don't grow their capacity to deal with the response of their actions, the consequence of their actions, then they're not going to be prepared. You know, let's say they're at school, or you know, let's say they're at the library and they're playing with blocks or a car thing, and maybe they threw the car, and the librarian walks over and says, all right, the rule is no throwing, and now you have to go to this table. You can't sit at the toy table. You want your kid to be already trained to say internally, in his or her own self-talk, to be like, yeah, I did throw the toy, so I'll take the consequence. No big deal. I know I'm awesome. Hey, everyone makes mistakes. And this goes hand in hand with making sure that we do train our kids to have a positive self-identity so strong that it isn't affected by these consequences. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment below or message me. If you've tried this and you want to share how it went, yeah, please let me know, and I'll see you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.